Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen. We're so glad to have you returned to our discussion. Yeah. Daniel? Yeah, Daniel. For our participants online, I want to express a little regret because we couldn't have time to interact with you during lunch. We had very good, I think, exchanges also during the lunch. So that's why I think the physically the meeting is very important. After the pandemic already, so 2 years passed, but we think that haven't recovered totally. But this kind of meeting physically, so I guess, so it's a very, so I think it's a beneficial opportunity to do this. Okay, so distinguished so guests and dear friends, so good afternoon. So this is Zheng Liang from the Institute of AI International Governance at Tsinghua University. As one of the organizers, so I'd very like to welcome all of you, either offline or online, to join our discussion. Firstly, I also want to say thank you for Wallace as a representative of Globethics to give us generous support, both on logistics and all of this, I think, arrangement of this marvelous, I think, a place to have these dialogues. I should also say thank you for Alexander Crispis, our long-term collaborators. So in past 5 years, not only in person, but also on the institutional level between AIIG and IAEA. I should say also for all your contributions at the very beginning to kick off these ideas, to have this, I think, so dialogues. I still remember when we are talking about this, even during the pandemic. Now we can expand it to maybe, I think, the multi, so I think it's level and diversified, so stakeholders, so exchanges on autonomous driving and the regulatory framework. Okay, so that's just some words to say. Thank you. So today, I think it's what we want to explore. I just want to share some of you. So what we are thinking about. So this, I think it's a very essential issue. We take autonomous driving vehicle and the regulatory framework. So as typical scenarios, so talking about so how to treat with these emerging technologies from the governance perspective. We have Vincent here, also attended our morning discussion. That's a very, I think, marvelous success. We not only have the practitioners as you, some practitioners also are online from China. I wish so we could have more deep discussions to continue our discussions so in the morning. So I think that's a very rare opportunity. We also have the, I think it's scholars, I think it's online and here offline. So for example, Dr. Wang Ning, so from the University of Zurich. So we hosted her visit last summer in our institute, who also attended. So our, I think, seminar this morning. We have a very good conversation. So some of our scholars from China, like Professor Shen Weixin, so get a very good response to my questions this morning, how to treat with the employment challenge by the autonomous driving vehicles. I guess all of these are very important issues we want to explore with all of you. I think here, as I think a background, I will give some of the point what we want to do maybe so in the future. You know that this is a tremendous, I think, change or the transformation of the total system So we can see that now the autonomous driving is a very diversified scenarios, not just like the robot taxi, but also in the I think it in the logistic, I think it areas, it's been employment so very quick. So in China, even in manufacturing so sectors, in some scenarios like mine industries, like the port. I know there are some pilot. So I think it lines even in Switzerland in the airport of Zurich are doing this kind of experimental. I think pilot commercialization of which. I don't want to say too much words. I know we have colleagues from Pony, so from Apollo, so Waymo, all you are very familiar with this. So another, I think it's line. So what we are pay attention is the governance. You can see this is a timeline of the key developments in the AI governance. We try to summarize all of this. So maybe important measures. Professor Xuelan talked about this both yesterday and this morning. So in the meeting jointly organized by ITU and MII from China. We all know that we already have this kind of regulatory framework, especially so in some areas like autonomous driving, like vehicles. And then, what I want to raise the question is that, do we have a regulatory or legislative framework to treat with this fast changing, I think, areas? Our team, so in AIIG, we raised the framework because we are majorly focusing on the public administration perspective of the issue. So I will outline a little what we call a three-pronged approach from the public administration perspective. We define which as I think it's a problem. So into three specific prongs. So one is a problem definition, and the other is policy construction, and third is value coordination. So first, so how to treat with the problem definition? This is a starting point of the governance. We often begin the governance discussion, so in the public policy school, by focusing on the policy tools. But in reality, so on the practitioner level, the first step is not about how to govern, but how to define the problem and how we set the agenda for the problem. So this is very important. For autonomous driving, so I think the different countries, institutions, and groups have very different understanding of what the problem actually is. So is it a breakthrough technology or a question of traffic efficiency and urban management? So that's totally different from the administration perspectives, or perhaps a matter of algorithm governance and social risks. So then how you define these questions that will totally determine which kind of tools you will adopt to the governance of this technology. So as we can see in the governance of biotechnology, the real starting point is asking, is it worth doing? Do we benefit? So or overweigh the risks. Then the agenda setting is not just about to design the technical roadmap, but about defining the social vision. I think time is out, so forgive me. I just want to be quick. The second issue is how to move it towards a policy construction. So from the coordination to build a learning mechanism. It's very important. In China, we think that we have different models for the policy making, regulatory framework involvement. For example, the pilot first and the local exploration. But we also face the shortcomings, how to coordinate, horizontally. In US, so the industry self-regulation, so is I think it's a typical mode, but it also has the disadvantages. So the fragmentation through framework of the regulations. In the Europe, so maybe give more emphasis on the pre-regulations, but this may raise the bar for innovation. That's why I think that everybody are now talking about whether you should still have the maybe the AI Act enforcement. So I think that's so what we want to build this perspective from the policy models, policy construction. It's important when we're talking about the governance of AI in specific areas like autonomous driving. And finally, the last but not least, the value coordinations beyond the technology. When we are talking about autonomous driving, you couldn't avoid talking about the influence on society. The safety and innovation, efficiency and fairness, transparency and practically all of these kind of things, especially the discussion on unemployment. Then when you have all of this, I think in your mind, I guess, so you can treat with the exact issues so we are talking about. Okay, I will just stop here. I just want to formulate this framework and to give a background of our discussion. And I have also 2 slides. If you have interest, I'd like to invite you to join our incoming issue in the end of July in Shanghai, the WAIC. We will have a forum, so majorly focused on global governance system on AI, where Professor Xuelan, our dean, will also give a report, I think in briefly about what our mindset. And the other issue is by the end of November, we will jointly organize an event in University of Melbourne, as well as Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, National University of Singapore together to talk about how to collaborate to facilitate this kind of exchanges to build the unified governance systems, especially in some specific areas, so like autonomous driving. So if you'd like, you are more than welcome to join us. So you can just scan our QR code to learn more information, yes, from it. Okay, forgive me. Yes, I think I already give too much, yeah, occupied too much time. I will stop here. Then I will give hand to our moderator, so Wallace, to in charge of the discussion of the first, I think, panel. Now, the floor is yours, Wallace.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Liang. I'm very glad to moderate the following session. Over the lunch, I had a chat with Vincent. He mentioned something very interesting. He said maybe 10 years later is the best timing for AV industry, right, for startups, because now it's from 0 to 1, lots of uncertainties, the consumer awareness, regulations. Regulators are also not that sure. So I think that could be a good start for your introduction for this session. So what is the trend of this AV industry? What are the innovation there? What are problems they want to address? Where are the market demands? Where are the market trends? So I think this session can be a very good platform, have a deep dive on these key issues. We have a wonderful panel of this session from industry, from the standard setting. Then we, perhaps one by one, let's start with Vincent. Vincent is a distinguished engineer from Waymo, as an industry leader in this field. So you have 5-6 minutes on each one. Okay, yeah, you have the floor, please, Vincent.
So I have some notes prepared, but given the conversations we've had this morning, I thought that maybe I can go a little bit more free form and sort of emphasize on some of the things that were discussed. One of the things that is changing, that has changed this year, particularly in AV space, is that we now have commercial deployments, right? And so from the perspective of regulations or ethics or thinking about the problem, if we think about it this year in the same way as we thought about the problem last year, we're probably doing it wrong because now we have data. And the data is very good. Like thus far from all the big players in the market, we're seeing very good market data. It's actually a real business. It's actually something that people want. The public is loving it. The industry is meeting a need that was not met before, and so we're focusing on enabling this autonomy is worthwhile. It was not proven before that it was actually an endeavor that was actually something people even wanted, right? Now we have proof. We also have proof from the perspective of safety that autonomous cars can be vastly more safe than human drivers, right? The safety reports that Waymo has put out over the first 50 million miles that we've done, we were 92% fewer accidents with injuries to pedestrians, 82% fewer accidents with injuries to bicyclists, to motorcyclists, and that translated also into about an order of magnitude reduction in insurance claims, both for bodily injuries and for property damage. So from a safety standpoint, the validation is there. It's no longer a question of, are we going to be able to make those things safe? So the conversation needs to sort of flip to be a lot more data-driven, I think, and it can also become a lot more outcomes-driven, right? We're not talking about a hypothetical anymore. We're talking about sort of real data that can be measured. With that said, from a technology standpoint, the technology under the covers is still evolving rapidly. I was trying to sort of chart the technology arc from the area that I know the best, the machine learning aspects of autonomous driving from back when Waymo started 15 years ago until now. And I could distinguish 4 generations of machine learning technologies that have come and gone, essentially, that have forced essentially the entire machine learning stack to be redeveloped, rebuilt, reinvented, and evolved over time. I can picture a 5th one on the horizon that is in the making as well. That's not quite there yet, but there is continuous evolution of the underlying technology at a pretty brisk pace, right? So if you think 5 technology shifts in 15 years, that's about once every 3 years. It's evolving quite rapidly. So to me, that means the pace does not slow down. We're not yet at a place where the technology has annealed to a common solution. There is actually a very broad variety of solutions in the market, which if I were in the shoes of a regulator, I would look at it from the perspective of, okay, let's not focus on the technology, what it does. Let's focus on the outcomes. Let's focus on actually making sure that whatever we design as a framework and as a standard, we're meeting the safety objectives and we're meeting the fairness objectives and the economic objectives that we have and just benefiting society at large and making sure that we have benchmarks for this and then let the technology evolve at the pace that it needs to continue to evolve. What's been interesting in this last year of deployment of autonomous solutions was what we learned. Some of the things that we learned were that it's a lot of the important engagements that we've had with civil society were not at the level of regulation. They were at the level of retail engagements with the different constituencies that are part of the environment that we are deployed in. It's the city leaders, it's the firefighters, it's the police, it's all the different bodies that interact with our cars, that interact with the public in the context of our cars being on the road, and building a rapport and building a good relationship with the civil society has been critical to the success of our deployment. And so there is a lot of work that needs to happen that is not just pure regulatory and policy work that can happen today to improve the connections between civil society and autonomous driving. And then down the road, if we look further, I think there is also now the opportunity to really start to rethink our cities in ways that can support autonomy and be enhanced by autonomy. I was looking up the statistics. The average car is parked 95% of the time. In terms of asset utilization, I can't think of anything that is this expensive that has a utilization rate of 5% only. That seems crazy. Yet our cities are, lined with parking lots. There's not enough parking spaces in San Francisco to fit all the cars that San Francisco residents own. Those numbers feel a little silly in some ways, and there is a potential future for much higher asset utilization of individual cars through a more generalized car sharing system that is part of the environment of public transport, that it works jointly with public transport within cities, and that vastly improves the landscape in general. So cities may have to also adapt and provide more, pick up and drop off areas compared to parking lots, have more say in where people should be picked up and dropped off and things like that. So I think that can change quite a bit. All the benefits of this increased safety only will matter if we're at the right scale, right? If we're actually making a significant dent in the number of miles that people drive or do not drive. So it really is a matter of, can we enable enough scaling of the technology to make it work and really save lives in absolute terms, not just in relative numbers. That's it.
Thank you very much, Vincent. You highlight a few very important points in terms of the data already. We accumulated lots of data, so that shows proof from consumers, but also from safety regulators and public. And we also discussed the evolving landscape of technology in these areas and a forecast of this fifth generation is in making. So that highlights how fast this industry is growing. And finally, I think it's very important you highlight the importance to build a relationship with all stakeholders in this ecosystem. Civil society is not just policymakers, but civil society, public interest groups, and also mentioned the potential future because of the demands on this demands for this kind of services, to improve access to mobility, solutions to lack of parking or various issues. Thank you. So now I would like to invite Lu Bo from China Automobile. Lu Bo is the director of the European Technology Center of China Automobile. So now, Lu Bo, you have the floor. Thank you.
demonstration. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. My theme is AI car practice and reflection. Over the next about 5 or 8 minutes, I'll share all the practice and reflection about AI car in Chang'an. And our globalization strategy, vast ocean plan, the 3 global brands of Chang'an Automobile, Chang'an, Depot, and Avatar, have found a well-rounded brand matrix bolstered by a variety of convincing products. The 3 brands have different product positioning to meet varying market demands. We have been launched 2 all-electric SUV models, Depot S07 and S05 in Europe this year, and we are expanding into at least 10 European regional markets until the end of 2025, like Norway, Germany, Netherlands, and the UK. More car models and markets were to come in the next years. Chang'an Automobile has always adhered to vehicle manufacturer philosophy of safety, environmental protection, reliability, and durability. S07 has won #1 among Chinese brands in the GT Power in IQX index for 2 consecutive years, and also #1 among Chinese brands in the satisfaction evaluation of China Consumers Association. The in-cab 5 stars rating and 5 million kilometers of testing mileage have given us the confidence to provide European consumers with a 160,000 kilometer or 7-year warranty service. We think that AI technology brings new opportunity to automobile applications in the AI era. The automotive industry's large-scale data entry points, extensive industrial application scenarios, and the system product definition capabilities have become to natural advantage of Chang'an, because we have more than 20 million users and millions of new vehicles added annually, and also over 200,000 high density scenario simulation per day in Chang'an. And we also think that the new development of AI industry can't be separated from automobiles. Cars are the largest carrier of embodied intelligence application today. Only through continuous interaction with the physical world to emulate illusions can AI technology ultimately reach AGI. With the development of cheap compute power, big data IoT, and other technologies, the product form of automobile will evolve into intelligent transformable vehicles and intelligent automotive robots. In February 2025, Chang'an have launched the Intelligent Plan 2, introduced the brand new SDA pilot driver assistance system to provide users with pleasant, comfortable, and safe travel experience. In the next years, our economical and productive vehicle will equipped with LiDAR and AEB collision avoidance speeds will increase to 135 km per hour. We will global premier interactive smart driving. And we also think that the interacting smart driving is the future. This type of vehicle needed to be able to real-time perception of internal and external environment, understanding user intentions, achieving natural human-vehicle interaction, and creating a safe, efficient, and enjoyable driving experience. For example, when you say, I want to take a photo of that tall building ahead in your car, the vehicle can recognize its surroundings and the current status and respond accordingly with, I have found you the best and the safest spot. Would you like me to drive there? If you give a positive response, the vehicle will automatically drive to the destination and park. Finally, Chang'an are looking forward to collaborating with trusted partners going forward, committed to providing exceptional products and services in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lubo, for your very comprehensive presentation on AI and smart driving in China company. Thank you. Now we have 3 online speakers. First one is Liu Xuan, Deep Root AI. You have the floor, sir.
Hello, hi everyone. I'm Xuan from Deep Root. So shall I share my slides by myself? Oops. Ooh. Oh, there's something.
Liu Xuan, you can also introduce yourself a little bit, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the VP and partner of Deep Root. So our Deep Root was founded in 2019. So our headquarters is in Shenzhen, in China, and we have offices in Beijing, Shanghai, and Silicon Valley as well. So I found there's something wrong for my Zoom. I cannot share my screen so far. I need to quit and reopen. Maybe can you help to share my slides? I'm not sure if that's possible. Great. Yeah. So hello everyone again. So I'm Xuan from DeepRoad. So I have a meeting this morning in another European country. So I am unfortunately I'm not in Geneva, and I cannot say hello to everyone in person. So today I'm very honored to be here to on behalf of DeepRoad to share our thoughts in autonomous driving technologies. So currently we have been providing the ADAS systems and for a lot of the OEM partners. So today I want to share our thoughts on the most recent progress of our autonomous driving technologies. So we call that from end-to-end learning to the VLA model. So please go to the next slide. Yeah, and first I would like to share evolution of autonomous driving techniques. So and first so as a lot of the autonomous driving companies, so we used to work on the traditional autonomous driving solutions, so based on the rule-based and modularized machine learning algorithms. So although our company was founded in 2019, and the core team member, we started working in this industry. So starts from the 2017. So we are the first team in China to develop the early fusion network that combines a lot of the modules in perceptions together, and we gradually reduce the total number of the modules. In 2022, we are the first one in China who introduced the mapless solution, that we don't rely on the HD map. So we only have two neural networks, the one for the general perception and the other one for the prediction and planning. And we started the initial road testing for the end-to-end learning model in August of 2023. And we have started the vision language action models development from last September. So you can see that in one sentence is that we are doing the things in a more data-driven way that is relies on the machine learning more and more, and we want to use less engineering, the less code. Okay, please next slide. Yeah, so we believe the current end-to-end learning method is still in the scope of the AI specialist system. We believe that is a weak AI. So although that the end-to-end learning can handle a lot of the scenarios, but it doesn't provide the ability of understanding the very complex scenarios. So it lacks of the reasoning ability a lot. So we believe that with the help of the large language models ideas, so we want to introduce some of the language layers into our autonomous driving systems. Using that, we believe we can build the general AI system, so which we combine the vision, language, and action signals together to build a stronger AI for driving the vehicles. Next slide, please. Yeah, in our VLE model, we have two inputs. One is for the visions, the other one is for the text. So here we use both of these inputs, and we do some feature engineering on that, and we pass them to tokens, and we use our own designed VLE model to produce the outputs. So one for the trajectory, the other one is for the text. So what can our VLE model do? So it can describe the current scenario that during the driving, and it outputs the action that needs to be taken with the necessary explanations in natural language. So here's one example. On the right-hand side, so we face this scenario, and the system can tell us that so there are two pedestrians that are crossing the streets. Thus, we need to slow down to wait for them to pass, and we can avoid possible accidents. Yeah, so you can see that. Previously, everyone is talking about the neural network is treated as a black box, and by introducing the language layers, we can generate some more explainability in these techniques. Yeah. Next slide, please. The VLA model can understand and handle very complex scenarios very well. So we believe the most important thing is that it provides ability of the chain of thought, just like a lot of large language models like DeepSeek provided these ideas. So here we show an example. So in this video, we show that in a lot of the big cities in China, so due to the heavy traffic jam in the peak hours, so the drivers are allowed to use the reverse lanes for some time to reduce the traffic jams. So however, these information are described in natural languages. So we need to let our system to read all these traffic rules described in natural language and understand. Our system will decide when it is the right time to use the reverse lane, and it not only analyze the text, the natural language text, but it also detects the surrounding traffic participants. So it will detect how the other cars are driving. So and it combines all of the information together to decide whether our system will use this reverse lane. So in this way, the VLA model performs much better than the traditional end-to-end learning model, which the end-to-end learning model cannot handle this scenario very well. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah. Okay. So, in all, we are building the VLA model into the consumers vehicles. So, we mostly relies on the camera's outputs. The LiDAR is optional for our system, and we can deploy our system on diversified SoC platform. So, on all of like the NVIDIA's, Qualcomm's, and some of the Chinese SoCs like Horizon Robotics or other chips as well. Yeah, and we can build this system from the economy to middle range to premium cars. So all of the consumers can benefit from these techniques. Next slide, please. So we have been working with a lot of the OEMs. Some are from the Chinese OEMs, and we have been discussing with the international OEMs as well. So we are producing the products for a lot of the car models, including the SUVs, MPVs, off-roads, and the sedans as well. So we are expecting to deliver over 10 mass-produced vehicles this year, and over 5 series with the latest VLA model. So, and first, all these vehicles will be delivered to the Chinese market, and we are expecting to support the vehicles for other markets like Europe markets as well. Okay, next one. Yeah. So here's our expectations of the evolving of these techniques. So we are collecting and training using the user-generated data and to continuously improve our machine learning models by using these mass-produced vehicles this year. And starting from this year, we are using the trained models to building our generalized road AGI systems. So working on like the robots for the deliveries. Then we believe that the generalized model can be used in the physical AI. So as the moving abilities. So in the future, and we are working towards this destination. So that's all for the information I want to share today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Xuan, for your presentation. Now, next speaker is Laura Lukács from Volkswagen Online. So
hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I didn't prepare slides for my short input today, but thank you so much for inviting me. I am Laura Lukács, a very hard surname to pronounce. I am an AI auditing researcher in the Volkswagen Group. And today, I would like to talk about my experience in auditing AI systems within the automotive sector, the current challenges that we're facing, because as you can imagine, AI in a large company like Volkswagen is deployed in many, many domains. So not just the AI in the car, but also the AI in the production or in the customer service or in HR. So we're currently facing many, many challenges around understanding how to govern systems according to multiple regulations, not just in the European Union, but across different countries, and how to balance that with innovation. So in general, what I wanted to talk about today is that auditing is still a nascent field. It's very much not established in terms of methodologies and frameworks. So what we're currently doing in the company is trying to understand which standards are applicable, and we're trying to understand which methods we can deploy throughout the life cycle to make sure that we understand whether a system is performing safely, whether the quality is respecting the benchmark that we expect for performance, and so on and so forth. What I think makes auditing much more complex for AI in other domains than autonomous driving is the fact that for autonomous driving in Europe, we have a very controlled innovation deployment. So basically, there are German laws intertwined with European level laws, and Volkswagen can rely on very robust partners such as DECRA that have historically always supported European car makers to test their technologies and to understand whether they are safe to be deployed in the market. So when it comes to AI systems in other domains, these strong institutions that are supporting technology developers are not present. So for companies, it's very much complicated to understand how to govern systems that are deployed in customer service or HR, because these systems have been already put in the market. So what is currently even more challenging is the fact that many of the technologies that large companies deploy are actually acquired by third parties. So currently, according to the AI Act, to conduct the conformity assessment for systems that are deployed in high-risk domains, such as HR, for instance, you have to provide documentation, which is one of the first steps along testing and conformity assessment, which is basically auditing. And what is currently very complex is that the chain of documentation is not yet enforced. So sometimes large companies, they don't have the necessary documentation from the external provider when they are acquiring these technologies to be able to understand whether it's safe to deploy them themselves for at least two reasons. Whereas for autonomous driving, the understanding the performance of the car has been gradual because there are many tests, and currently you don't have level 4 autonomous driving cars in Europe allowed. So it has been very gradual, understanding how the car performs, if the sensors are performing well under adversarial weather conditions such as rain, fog, and so on. These are things that are technically more established in the testing field for machinery and so on. And that's why it becomes easier to build on top of that auditing practices. So this is my input for today. I just wanted to let you know the complexities of governing and auditing in a large car maker company because of AI entering so many areas of the company beyond the car, and how complex it is to make sure that you don't have to reinvent the wheel for every domain in the company, but you have to make sure that the governance measures that you're developing can be applicable in across different parts of the company to try and centralize efforts. Otherwise, it becomes increasingly complex to enable these oversight mechanisms. The last point I would like to talk about in my input is the complexity of approaching auditing, because as many of you might know, currently it becomes a very multi-stakeholder approach. And therefore in the company, it's also complicated to understand which teams have to collaborate under which circumstances. And therefore, even organizing and centralizing the efforts it's one of the challenges that most companies are facing in AI governance. Thank you so much for inviting me, and it has been very, very interesting hearing all of your input. And I don't know if my audio is working, but I thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Laura, for sharing your experience, also development in Volkswagen, in particular from auditing perspective. It's very, very helpful. So now our next speaker is Liu Xucheng. So after that, we may have a few minutes discussion. So, but try to keep it brief. Thank you. You have the floor, Xucheng.
Hello, good afternoon to friends and colleagues, both online and offline. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there in person, but I can really feel the good atmosphere in the venue, in the discussion, and to enabling this emerging technology. So my name is Xucheng Li, coming from the Shenzhen Smart City Group and Shenzhen Urban Transport Planning Center. And we can hear the previous discussions that was coming from the industry automaker, and actually we are coming partially from the regulatory side and partially from the industry side. And we are Shenzhen Smart City Group and Shenzhen Urban Transport Planning Center. We are actually a state-owned enterprise in Shenzhen. We're providing end-to-end services and technology solution to government. So including consultancy, technology solutions, and infrastructure. So that's why we have been a company with Shenzhen for the past many years in developing of the environments to enable autonomous driving. So I would like to share some of our thoughts during our journey together with the Shenzhen government for the development of autonomous driving. And in China, we have a term called vehicle road cloud integrated system. So Shenzhen is also promoting to be the most autonomous mobility friendly city. So my sharing today would coming into two parts. The first part, I will sharing some of the facts for Shenzhen and how we are promoting autonomous vehicles in our city. So just a quick statistics for connecting and autonomous vehicles in Shenzhen. We're not just autonomous vehicle, but also connectivity is also very important for us in Shenzhen. So for the past few years, Shenzhen's been evolving with a step-by-step implementation. So we have undertaken a top-level design, including comprehensive policy and regulation. And also we promoting a big number of commercial operation for different operators, including robotaxi, including buses, including say delivery, auto delivery vehicles in Shenzhen. So for now, as Shenzhen would like to be the leading cities in China for autonomous vehicles, we have been issuing over 1,000 connected autonomous vehicle testing permits and notice, and as well as there are 19 enterprises in Shenzhen have been receiving our connected autonomous vehicles license, and over 2,000 kilometers of roads has been open for CAV testings. So this is a quick statistics and some of the actions that we're making for the past few years. First is including promoting the policy and regulation. As Shenzhen is, we call it special economy zone in China. So Shenzhen have the right to issue the local legislation. So we've been using this advantage to issue the first local legislation for connecting and autonomous vehicles in China. So this actually covering how the vehicles have been for its testing, trialing, and entering into the market, and how operation and how we cover if there is any accidents coming. And along with this legislation, we also been working on detailed regulations and normality documents. So including, for example, how we're doing the road testing, demonstration, and application, and as well as how the insurance for different connected autonomous vehicles in Shenzhen should be how to deal with. So this has been the work we're promoting in Shenzhen. as well as for the testing environment. So in Shenzhen, we have a district, Pingshan district, is where BYD is headquarters located. So since the year of 2019, we've been opening this area for testing, including from R&D, from licensing, from market access, and as well as commercial operation. And now we have also have a close testing field in Pingshan that is entirely for manufacturers. There are over 200 testing scenarios opened as the testing sandbox for automakers. So this is a quick demonstration of the area. There's about like half kilometer square. So allowing over 200 testing scenarios. So this also issuing license and permits for further trials, demonstration, and commercial operation. And also since the year of 2024, we have developed the supervision and monitoring platform in Shenzhen. So covering the full life cycle of safety for connecting autonomous vehicles, trialing, commercial operation in the public environment. So where we can see here, we're able to see how from the government side, from the regulatory side, how the operation status of the different connecting autonomous vehicles in the city, as well as if there's any events happening, and how the real-time situation and including trajectories of connecting autonomous vehicles in the city to provide safety governance and monitoring from the government side. And as well as we have been enabling the open road testing, like I say, there are already 2,000 kilometers square testing roads been open, and including expressway in Shenzhen for the vehicles for trialing, testing, including operation in the city. And we're also targeting to open the entire Shenzhen for the operations of connecting autonomous vehicles. And also not just say the autonomous vehicles, robotaxis in Shenzhen is also enabling a wide range of the types to be operate in the city, including robotaxi, including the auto delivery services from Meituan, and there are 5 operators in total of 200 above 200 vehicles operating in Shenzhen, swiping vehicles and also buses for shuttle buses in the city. And for the industry, we also have been seeing a fast increasing industry and ecosystem for its industry value in Shenzhen. So since the year 2024, the industry value has been double in Shenzhen. It's leading the 20th strategic key industry in Shenzhen. And we also have a big number of key enterprises for these industries in Shenzhen. And we're also happy to see our friends and partners of Deeproot been demonstrating their solutions just beforehand. And as we are a company with Shenzhen government to promoting the most autonomous mobility friendly city. So we also have a vision together with Shenzhen government, how we developed the systems and also enabling the technologies as well as the commercialization of auto driving in Shenzhen. So overall, we have 3 points, 3 key points. One is the enabling the public and private collaboration. So what the government should do, and we should establish the safety guards. And also we have a keyword, we call it redundant safety, so that for some key points, for example, some locations where we could potentially have very severe accidents, or for example, we have not sufficient information where the automakers will spend a big amount of costs to getting those information that the government should be investing in promoting and also enabling the safety for auto drivers. And also not just for one types of autonomous vehicles, and also different types of autonomous vehicles should be enabling. And also, if we have fragmented location for testing, it's not going to be able to make them as say a complete business model. So we are also enabling the end-to-end, at least level 3 above implementation framework in Shenzhen. And also for the supervision and data services, we've seen previously that we are demonstrating that we have city level and government level monitoring and management system for autonomous vehicle. And this should also be provided back to the operators and to enabling their testings and also the advancements in technologies. So from these 3 points, I just expand a little bit. So the first is for the safety infrastructure. For example, for certain locations, that the government should be providing the informations, the real-time traffic informations to the end users and to the automakers, including, for example, potential accidents and also road hazards, and also some locations where we don't have sufficient live sites. So those should be provided, and those infrastructures should be invested by the government and provided to the automakers. And as well as here is some of the location, for example, the accidents, black spots, where we identify those locations. And these information should be collected by the government. Well, it is collected by the government and also should be provided to the operators and automakers to enabling the advancement of technologies. And also, like I mentioned earlier, it's very important to cover the end-to-end scenario for all autonomous vehicles, not just, say, a robotaxi, but also in Shenzhen, we are promoting 8 types of autonomous vehicles. And also for their testings, it's not just in one area, in one location, but including in area, in zones and corridors, so that we can link from one point to another, because the traveling of passengers is end-to-end. So we want to cover the end-to-end journeys, and also for all autonomous vehicles. In Shenzhen, we are promoting, we call it 2 horizontal and 3 vertical corridors. So where we can see in here as the key points for autonomous vehicles testing. And also there are 15 zones and 40 areas in Shenzhen is opening and having use cases for the operation and testings of connecting autonomous vehicles. So this is also a commitment for Shenzhen government to have a most auto mobility friendly city. And as well as the one I mentioned about providing the information, for example, early warnings and guidance services for vehicles entering the network, because Shenzhen is having a digital twin base, so this will be also provided to the operators. I think my time is limited, so I'll make it quicker and to the summary. And yeah, this is also to enabling the end-to-end testing for hardware in the loop, vehicle in the loop, and ground in the loop testing to accelerate the manufacturers and iteration of technologies. So the key takeaways from my side, well, it's actually together with the visions in Shenzhen Transport Bureau. So if we want to create an environment for autonomous mobility, it's very important to have a scaled and systematic and end-to-end real-world testing scenario, rather than just, say, a limited area, and also just fragmented testing scenarios. So also how the government and the industry is collaborating, and what is the role for government and what is the role for industry needs to be clear, and also providing the seamless collaboration between the public and private, so that we can have quicker advancements in this technology, and also seeing the results and the benefits to the citizens. So here's my presentation and also the sharings. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Xuchan, for sharing Shenzhen's taking a holistic approach to build a AV-friendly city. So I hope you can also share your PowerPoint after the workshop, so everyone can read with more details. Now, because of time, we have used up our time. I would like to move to panel 2 directly, and if you have any questions, maybe at the end of the panel 2. So, Alexander.
Thank you very much. Also, thank you very much for both institutions that are partnering with us on this event, Tsinghua University and Globethics. And I'm starting today the panel on global governance and AI ethics, landscape of autonomous driving. And basically, we will have 3 different parts of this session. So first, we'll hear some words from Professor Lütke, Christoph Lütke, from the Technical University of Munich about AV ethics and also some general introduction. Following on that, I will deliver a quick presentation on the German approach of AV ethics and legislation. And following up on that, we'll have a panel discussion with different inputs from international organizations, from different, I would say, country perspectives on AV ethics. And I'm very excited for that, because I think we have really created a very nice panel which can look into the question of AV ethics from different perspectives. And I'm very happy to later on introduce the different panelists. But before I go on further, I would like to hand over to Professor Christoph Lütke from the Technical University of Munich, also to say some couple of words about AV ethics, also to give a short introduction.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Can you hear me? Hopefully.
Yes, I can hear perfectly.
That's good. I think we are at an interesting point when it comes to autonomous driving and ethics. So, as has been said many times, the very first ethics committee for ethics of autonomous driving was institutionalized in 2016 and 17 with the German Ministry for Transport and Digital Affairs. And I was a member of this committee, and we devised some of the first rules, ethical rules for this technology. And but it's interesting how it continued from there, because we saw various national initiatives. And in Germany, this led to the new German Act on Autonomous Driving from 2021. And I'm not always convinced that AI ethics should always turn into regulation. I think there are some areas where one should be a bit more cautious, because it's important to keep the momentum going, to keep the innovation going. And it's not always clear that regulation can do that. But when it comes to autonomous driving, I think it's very clear, and the industry leaders that I've been talking to are mostly of the same opinion, that there have to be clear, not just ethical guidelines, but there has to be a clear law. There have to be acts and regulation on this technology, so they can actually be put on the market. And I think we have. It's very interesting to see these developments now in China going on as well, and we have several ones in other parts of the world. What would now be a desirable focus is also, and Alexander will certainly say more about this, also to work towards a more international collaboration and standardization of these approaches, so that there is at least a bit more harmonization when it comes to not just the technical aspects, but also the safety, security, and governance and ethics aspects in the wider sense. We cannot expect everything to be harmonized globally. I think we have many different circumstances and conditions that we live in, but I think at least in a number of areas, it would really be desirable to see this going towards more standards and more harmonized ethics and governance conditions. And yeah, that's what I hope to see for the near future, or at least midterm future, to see this go in this direction, because I think at this time autonomous driving can advance much more. I think the technology has matured. But it also needs the not just the ethics guidelines, but also the appropriate laws and regulations to keep moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Christopher, for your very nice remarks. And I think what you say fits perfectly into what we are going to discuss for the remainder of the session. And before basically we dig deeper later in the panel discussion, also like to look at different international perspectives, I will basically give a very conceptualized perspective on AI ethics, but also AV ethics and regulation, and how basically it relates with each other. And I think we have here a very interesting case, and I think also Christoph's work is very much representative of that, in terms of basically ethics frameworks becoming increasingly powerful also in motivating legal action and also being precursor for that. But at the same time, as mentioned, legal frameworks cannot solve everything. We rely on standardization. We rely on basically ethical codes, and also on measures of companies on an individual level to really drive change, but also to mitigate ethical risks. And I think also Laura's perspective and words were very helpful for elaborating on that from the perspective of Volkswagen. To begin with, I would start with a very basic point of departure, and I think it will continue to dominate, I would say, the rest of my presentation, namely that the introduction of autonomous vehicles raises a lot of ethical and legal questions. And again, the law cannot clarify meaningfully everything. To begin with, basically it is important that autonomous driving as a technology has many shapes and forms. We are not just speaking about one specific technology, but many different degrees of autonomous driving with different involvements of humans, but also the machine in terms of control. And this raises different questions in terms of liability, accountability, but also data privacy, given also the hardware solutions. And obviously this is some kind of ideal description of technologies. It's an ideal type, but if we look at different ways to implement it, we see that hardware solutions, software solutions, and whatever are different from company to company, which also makes it harder to regulate. And based on that, you already see, okay, well, if you go, for instance, to level 3 autonomous driving, then rather level 4, you might need to navigate a slightly different ethical, but also legal landscape. And in line with that, we have actually the German approach to AV ethics and regulation, which reflects that. So we have early on in 2016, 2017, a debate on the codification of ethics in respect to autonomous driving, also with the presentation of the German ethics code on automated and connected driving. Professor Lütke was personally very much involved in fact, leading the ethics component of that. As said before, this has been the first international ethics codification in this realm. It's very important because it also involved, for instance, individuals from the Constitutional Court, so linking up the German ethics code with a wider legal perspective. I think that's very important to think about, so that also legal experts contribute to that, but also the ethics field. Based on that, we have two major legal milestones in 2017. We have the amendment of the German Road Traffic Act directed towards level 3 autonomous driving. Just in parentheses, it is basically a mixed form of human-machine interaction, which raises difficult questions in terms of liability, but also human accountability. And in 2021, we have a major legal milestone, which is then basically a law referring to act on autonomous driving level 4 in a wider sense as we see it within the legal framework. So I think that's quite interesting. We see an amendment when it comes to level 3, and we see a new law when it comes to level 4. And basically it is situated within the broader lines of the difference between both forms of autonomous driving. So basically a brief description of basically what has been said before about the German ethics code. I don't want to bore you with details, also taking into account the limit of time that we are having, but I think it's very important to mention that there were many ethical considerations which have influenced the shape of the code. For instance, in autonomous driving, we are also always often referring to dilemmatic situations, unavoidable accident situations, where we need to prioritize between different legal aspects or values. And a key point that has been made within the framework is that personal injury takes precedence over damage to property, for instance, and also that liability gradually passes from user or owner to the car to the manufacturer or operator of the software. So this is to be seen in the wider continuum of the different forms of autonomous driving technologies. So that's also an important point. We see difference between level 3 and level 4, but the German ethics code was seeing that from a more general perspective, as it is an ethics code and not a legal framework. Also a very important point, and I think this has been come up earlier, the general purpose of the technology, like beneficence as a major idea, understood as the introduction of autonomous vehicles should actually have a positive impact on fatalities on the road. So this is also a very important metric which we can use in order to justify the introduction of autonomous driving on roads apart from other important functions, for instance, energy efficiency and so on and so forth. So this has been very influential in setting the stage for a conversation on autonomous driving. We see a difference between ethics frameworks and legal frameworks because legal frameworks are specific to specific levels of autonomous driving, whereas the ethics framework is basically setting the tone for a more general understanding. So what the amendment in 2017 was basically doing is to point out the different responsibilities of human drivers. And there is a very important point made, namely that the driver status remains unchanged irrespective of the presence of highly or fully automated processes. So basically what we can see throughout the 2017 amendment of the Road Traffic Act is actually that the responsibility in level 3 still rests in the individual driver. And I think this is a very important point to consider also from the perspective of liability, accountability, and insurances. Apart from that, basically there is a specific aspect when it comes to challenges in cases of doubt, particularly when it comes to more ambiguous accountability liability situations, where we need to understand that the producer needs to prove that the system warned the driver and the driver needs to prove that the system was not working properly. So I think here we speak about basically liability and accountability questions in a way in which direction basically it goes. And obviously we have also liability and responsibilities on behalf of the producer in terms of shaping the environment upon which the user or driver can actually make informed decisions. So I think this is quite, I would say, a general remark which we can also derive in a wider, I would say, perspective on AI ethics and also partly being reflected in the EU AI Act on the human oversight chapter. Apart from that, we have level 4. Level 4 is basically referring to situations where there is no actual driver in the car, which basically really sets the stage for what I would say the stereotypical perspective on autonomous driving is about. We speak about basically driving in a defined use case, which does place without a human driver. This is reflected on it in the 2021 Act on Autonomous Driving, which also describes and provides a legal definition for autonomous driving or in autonomous vehicles, referring to a vehicle with an autonomous driving function within the meanings of this act, being a motor vehicle that can perform the driving task independently within a specified operating range without a person driving the vehicle. This is very important because we have similar legal debates in Korea, actually, also about specified operating ranges, for instance, in harbors and other, in a way, specified areas where we can actually test out level 4 before. So airports are another example for that. So operating range also means here, not just in a way like a lane or whatever, but also refers, for instance, to weather conditions. We have seen technologically that often like changing weather conditions can actually make a big difference in terms of the performance of autonomous driving. So here, basically some points about that. Shuttle services from point A to B would be referred to that. We have also people movers, hub-to-hub services, demand-driven offers in off-peak hours, transport of persons to or shuttles from destinations. For instance, if we look at Palexpo to the hotel here, that would be basically an example for that. And also when it comes to automated valet parking. So this, in a way, the stage and the scene and really like the contextualization of what we are dealing with. There is also an important point which is made within this, namely the accident management system. It is one of the core elements of the law, which means that if there is like a scenario for crashes, there needs to be a procedure implemented within the AV context. And this accident management system is basically designed for damage prevention and damage reduction, which is a very important point, also reflecting the German ethics code in terms of dilemmatic situations. You have basically the difference between a car hitting basically a tree or hitting a person, and obviously then you have basically a preference for human life or human injuries over other priorities. Furthermore, there is this notion that basically there should not be any discrimination or weighting on the basis of personal characteristics. This is reminiscent of the debates that we had internationally about the trolley dilemma in the context of autonomous driving and also the enforcement of non-discrimination within that. I think it's a very important legal innovation that we are seeing here because we often refer to non-discrimination in societal settings, for instance, human resources, or for instance, basically the rental market, or basically economic interactions involving individuals. We have for the first time this principle being integrated within product safety. And I think this is a very interesting point because non-discrimination as a principle being integrated in that is something I would say very unconventional. That's also perhaps part of a wider tendency we are observing as a result of the introduction of AI within that. So apart from that, also when we look basically at AV governance in total, we basically see already some kind of first understanding of, in a way, the space between legislation and ethics. On the one side, we see that there is a need for regulation in broad strokes, but if we look at the German Act on Autonomous Driving, it often leaves a lot of terms and implementation questions less clear. Also, as we have here a gap to be filled by standardization, ethics codes, and also corporate policies. And furthermore, we see that we have basically quite a wide range of different ethical questions that need to be considered, which lie outside of the scope of the Act on Autonomous Driving. So we had a conversation already about privacy in the context of autonomous driving, which was quite interesting and valuable. We have also questions pertaining to fairness, human oversight, accountability. So those are traditional AI ethics considerations, which cannot be meaningfully solved always based on a specific law. At the same time, we see that technology itself is complicated. It's not just that we can say, okay, we have a comprehensive law on all forms of autonomous driving. We need to separate between different forms involving level 3, which has this complexity of human-machine interaction, but also level 4, which is basically driving without a person in the driver's seat anymore, where we have basically to think about predefining procedures if there are accidents beforehand. So we have more the ex-ante perspective on that. Furthermore, basically law is establishing overarching principles then to be realized by standardization, human dignity, responsibility, non-discrimination, liability, and furthermore. And apart from that, also in a way, we need to understand when we interpret those legal principles, really the use environment. And this applies also to the different use cases I've been mentioning in terms of basically the scope of the German Act on Autonomous Driving. If we think about a harbor setting, for instance, we might have basically the question of occupational safety being important. If we speak basically about autonomous taxis commuting from an airport to a hotel or whatever, it basically doesn't involve occupational safety as a specific issue, and so on and so forth. So it depends very much on the use case, which is why the contextualization, also from a technological perspective, is so important. Or think about basically a bus which is driving close to a kindergarten. So here also hardware specifications might be important for detecting minors also on the road, considering LiDAR and radar use within autonomous cars or facial recognition and furthermore. So last but not least, but also as highlighted in a paper we have been writing together, also with a colleague who is not there, Raphael Max. Basically, we wrote in a paper on the German Act on Autonomous Driving, and also why ethics still matters. And I think this is like very much at the heart of what you're doing here. To summarize, ethical frameworks, they will play a crucial role in bridging gaps in the legal system, helping to translate abstract principles, which are hardly to interpret by manufacturers on themselves, into actionable guidance for developers, policies makers, and users. And I think this gives us some sort of first understanding in a way about the landscape we are about to navigate. And I think this is, for me, basically already the start of the discussion we are having. And I'm very happy that we have really great panelists here assembled on this topic. Namely the question of, first, what are other international frameworks and developments which are not noteworthy in the context of AAV ethics or AV adjacent, where sometimes we might have one or another privacy framework, which is quite relevant for what we are talking about, or an AI perspective, which is more general and not speaking about AV ethics, but still matters. So those are points that are quite valuable. Before I continue, also going into the regulatory points, sharing perspective of that, I would also like to give a short introduction to the speakers that are assembled here and will share their insights. And I would like to begin with Amanda Horzik, who is basically contributing very much to debates that we had on AI ethics, already working quite closely with the Technical University of Munich, but also with Globethics on these issues. And she will share some insights about the United Kingdom perspective on autonomous driving. Next to me sitting Nate Walker, with whom we have also collaborated for already quite a time on AI ethics. He is principal director of the AI ethics lab at Rutgers University and will also share some general remarks on this topic, also from an American perspective. Also, we have representation from the International Telecommunication Union, Olivia Less, with whom we have also quite a history of collaboration in terms of AI and human rights. And I believe that autonomous driving is also a very interesting topic for ITU. At the same time, we have also a guest from China joining online, Yong Kai Wen. We are also very interested in the perspective of the People's Republic of China in the matters of AV ethics becoming an increasingly important player in the international landscape of this. And finally, I would also like to introduce to you Ali Hassami, with whom I have been working for a really long time already. I think it's 2-3 years. And he has been a very important figure within IEEE, but also other initiatives in the AI ethics community in terms of standardization. He has been the mastermind behind IEEE certified criteria suite and also pushed for the contextualization of autonomous driving. So I'm very honored to have him here. And apart from that, we have also Sophia Devlin joining from Take Ethics, a Northern Ireland-based startup in the terms in the wider field of AI, but also autonomous driving adjacent perspective. And I think it's also important not just to cover the perspective of established enterprise in the field, but also to look into what startups have to say about this conversation. Without further ado, I'm then happy to hand over to Amanda and also her perspectives on AV ethics and initiating our wonderful panel.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you to all the presenters so far. It was really insightful to see how the industry is approaching and has taken concrete steps to not only develop these autonomous vehicles and the systems behind it from the technical standpoint, but how you have been engaging with the regulators and the policy side. As was mentioned, it is very much of a holistic system. I am a doctoral researcher in the Center for Designing Responsible Natural Language Processing at the University of Edinburgh. But 2 years ago, I have found myself advising a startup that created safety components for autonomous vehicles and autonomous machinery in general, in the spirit of anticipating and foreseeing different out-of-distribution risks. for these machines and different missions. So my perspective comes very much from the UK's regulatory perspective, although these are my own observations of how these conversations have been developing, which have started and have been ongoing for the past decade. It is important to see the current landscape in the UK, and specifically the Autonomous Vehicle Act that was passed into law last year. It received royal assent in 2024, as one that is in the spirit of anticipation. I think both the government and the industry in the UK is aware that the full rollout of autonomous vehicles is not going to take place before 2026. And it is in anticipation of a rollout that was now delayed to 2027 for autonomous vehicles as services like taxi and cargo movement. So where I come from, I can see that the shift in the regulatory approach has been very much towards co-regulatory approaches to a flexible system that considers that the underlying mechanisms of autonomous vehicles and of AI that underpins a lot of the safety mechanisms behind it is changing rapidly. We are as Alex outlined very well, in the stage of very high automation, where we are looking for testing grounds, sandboxes, but also what the Autonomous Vehicles Act in the UK has emphasized very much is about communication. And I think this is something that I want to bring to the table, because it's something that is very much highlighted by the AV Act, is around how are we talking about autonomous vehicles to the general public? How are we building either the trust or the expectations of the future users of the vehicles? Are we promising what is feasible at the moment technically, or is it just a state-of-the-art approach that we are thinking about considering in the near future? So I would really like to encourage, from the UK's perspective, to all those who are considering the UK market, but also more broadly, how are we talking about, how are we marketing autonomous vehicles? How are we trying to build trust and customer value? Because of course we want to market the added value of our products. The other distinction that I would like to highlight between the German system at the moment and the one that is pursued in the European Union is, for instance, the level 5 no driver. The UK at the moment uses different terminology. They use the terminology of users in charge, and no users in charge. The other thing that I will also come back to is a little bit of a caveat. Although we have passed autonomous vehicle legislation, a lot of the details around harm levels, scenarios, use cases, case studies are not actually specified in the Act. It is very much of a high-level framework that provides guidelines on the liability perspective based on that distinction of a user in charge or a non-user in charge. So we don't actually look at whether the autonomous vehicle will drive into a tree or into a person. This distinction is not drawn out at the moment. What the AV Act tries to do is to establish, as I mentioned, legal liability, but also the concern for consumer confidence in Great Britain. And this has been a very much of a result of a 4-year consultation that was done in the Scottish Law Commission, that was published and started from 2018 to 2022, with a primary focus on 3 things: reducing the number of deaths and injuries, to enhance road safety, and to minimize human error. What I would like to also emphasize is that there is not only a distinction between the users, but there is also a distinction drawn between the vehicles and the operators. The operators are those who are maintaining, those who are releasing and manufacturing vehicles, whereas the users are those either inside or outside working with the manufacturers, overseeing the vehicles as if a fleet operator. Another important aspect to remember is that it's all contingent on authorization and appropriate licensing and certification. This is nothing new for the automotive industry, but it is quite crucial for the Autonomous Vehicles Act, because as I mentioned, it really does depend on the Secretary of State to provide appropriate mechanisms and processes for the authorization of automated vehicles. And the reason why I mentioned how we communicate with the public being so important is the fact that at the moment in the UK, it is not legal to market or advertise that you have an authorized automated vehicle that will be able to drive on the UK market. This is because, again, there will be a very specified procedure to get such authorization and a licensing of, for instance, operators that are not in charge that are not users in charge. So users in charge are those who are expected to take over the driving when the self-driving feature is signaled to be, let's say, disrupted or switched off or recommended in uncertain circumstances. In the situation where there is a no user in charge, we must have a licensed operator that works, for instance, with the manufacturers, works with those who are autonomous vehicles entities who are bearing then the liability for things like accidents, etc. Again, why is this important? From the ethical perspective, not only from the legal one, and I think very much that in the legal, in the system of autonomous vehicle policy and regulation in the UK, being a very much of a principles-based approach, it's nothing new from the AI policy pro-innovation approaches, is that they are really requiring us to think about the interplay of legal systems, of ethical principles, of existing legislation, and not rely on one standalone comprehensive document that will specify every single detail of the operation of autonomous vehicles. Given that, and given the distinction of users in charge and no users in charge, really relying on the State Secretary's principles to assess whether an autonomous vehicle meets safety standards. Another thing that I would like to highlight is that it relies on flexibility. We are aware that the technology is changing really quickly, and the autonomous vehicle regulation is again anticipating that safety standards will change as the technology develops forward. Something that is considered very much are two basic principles that I think we can take to the discussion later on. Two safety principles that are currently applicable is that autonomous vehicle will match or surpass that of a careful and competent human driver and road safety in Great Britain. And the second important principle is to enhance road safety in Great Britain through the deployment of approved autonomous vehicles compared to scenarios without their presence. So the presence of autonomous vehicles should improve the overall safety of the movement of the autonomous systems. So I think these are some things that we can take away around flexibility, around the need for co-regulatory approaches, these sandbox environments, which, especially the sandbox environments, I am not so confident that the UK at the moment focuses on that much that we saw working so well in China. Here, I would also like to emphasize that we cannot look on autonomous vehicle regulation in isolation. We need to look at existing traffic management systems, but this interplay of different regulatory frameworks is still yet to be clarified by the Secretary of State. The statement of safety principles is yet to be revised, and there's going to be an ongoing process of consultations with both the industry, the potential users and the current drivers and the users of the roads and road safety policymakers to refine the details and upcoming secondary acts of law that will support the practical implementation of the Autonomous Vehicles Act. So I would say let's think about questions of safety of this comprehensive regulatory environment that isn't only about autonomous vehicles, that considers also AI, that has this distinction not of drivers, but of drivers in charge, of no drivers in charge, but also about the labor that will be involved in the background of these companies and the risk of labor exploitation of low-wage workers that may be required to oversee a autonomous vehicle system on the roads from, let's say, a third world country to see whether it's operating correctly or not. Again, food for thought and an ethical reflection, which I hope that we can explore later on in the discussion.
Thank you very much, Amanda, for your points. And also particularly clarifying in a way the complexity of the legal environment we are operating in. It's not just about AV regulation proper, but also about the different intersections that we are having. Without further ado, I would like to hand over to Nate, who has also prepared a small presentation about this topic, also from American or rather international perspective.
I love the title of this event, Driving the Future. From industry, we have seen exactly this vision of the future by looking at the blueprint for today. From regulation to ethics, we're seeing this vision of the future. And to see is to recognize that every stakeholder in this discussion has something to gain when we develop what I'm calling a sustained ethical ecosystem. Within companies, beyond companies, we can reflect on these ethics and principles, morals and values. We can ground ourselves in the safety and security protocols, the legal obligations and the humanitarian principles. And we can find objective, fair, and rigorous audit points that are carefully considered when we look at the impacts on users and non-users, vulnerable populations, the environment. And when we see in this way, when we see a sustained ethical ecosystem, we recognize that our collective decision-making is one that needs to occur throughout the AI lifecycle, from design to investment of the development, of the deployment and use and maintenance and monitoring. My primary question for all of us, whether in industry or in the academy or in law, is to ask ourselves, is smart technology the ultimate goal? If we are driving to the future, is smart technology the end game? Or is it something else? So what is smart technologies have given us an incredible amount of opportunity to look at autonomous or semi-autonomous devices that are networked and leveraged through sensors, AI, machine learning, real-time connectivity, monitoring, data exchange. And this is to enhance the Internet of Things, which is our focus today on transportation. But of course, this whole smart technology, of course, applies to home devices, healthcare, and so on. So smart technology has the end game of let's collect, store, and process, analyze, and learn from user-generated data. We want to be adaptive when we respond to users' needs and contexts. We want to automate these tasks for operational efficiency purposes. We want to optimize individual and collective performance, increase connectivity and interoperability between devices and systems to enable remote access and control, and to improve efficiency and convenience and ease of use. So this is all smart. This is good. But is it wise? I would like to propose that the companies that choose to move the entire tech industry from smart to wise technology will become the most trustworthy technical companies in the world. How can we move from smart to wise? Let's take a step back to define how we understand human wisdom. If we consider someone in your life, or a writer, a thinker, or someone throughout history who is known for their wisdom, what were their character attributes? That they portrayed intelligence, creativity, and common sense, knowledge that were somehow mediated by positive ethical values toward this achievement of a common good. Now, this framework of a balanced theory of wisdom is developed by Robert Sternberg, who continues to say that these elements of wisdom are balanced through the both intrapersonal and the interpersonal, the extrapersonal over the short and long-term gains. And why? So that we can achieve balance among adapting to and shaping to the existing environments, to the selection of new environments. So how would this play out if autonomous vehicle companies were to move us from smart tech to wise technology? Wise technology would be a result of this deep commitment within the company's ecosystem to engage in sustained ethical decision-making across the AI lifecycle. A wise AI company, a wise AV company, would be integrating human intelligence, creativity, and common sense and knowledge for some additional purposes, such as being consistently mediating technology through the use of positive ethical values, carefully balancing both the individual and community environmental interests, evaluating short and long-term impacts to a balance among skillful adaptation to existing physical environments and social contexts, continuously shaping the existing environments and contexts through the thoughtful selection and creation of new environments. If we were to do this, we can ensure that the technological advances can not only prevent harm, but actively maximize good, while advancing the ethics of justice and equity and fairness, by preserving every person's inalienable rights, specifically dignity and privacy, strengthening the community's social, economic, and ecological resilience, cultivating transparent, engaged, and informed civic participation, and thereby collectively fostering livability, well-being, prosperity, and enabling humans to flourish across generations. The reason why I frame it in these terms is because AV companies, AI companies, have to ultimately ask ourselves, is smart the ultimate goal, or can we embed a deeper vision that will help us move from smart to wise technology?
Thank you very much, Nate, for your very reflecting words. Also from a methodological perspective on how to think about ethics in this context. Moving, I would say, from corporate ethics and perhaps also like the search for ethical truth as you lined out to standardization, I would like to give the floor to Olivier Les, who has been doing significant work in the human rights field, also from a standards setting body's perspective. And I would be very happy to learn more about your perspective in AV ethics, but also adjacent fields and the work of ITU in this respect.
Thanks a lot, Alex, for giving me the floor. So I am Olivier Les. I'm working at ITU and in the T sector, so it's the part of ITU designing standards. For quite a long time, standards have been focused on efficiency and interoperability. And now, and it's pretty new, we are working also on respecting human rights. Why technical standards matter for human rights? because technical standards are not neutral. They can shape directly the technology and people's lives. Standard can translate also human rights principles, such as the right to dignity, equality, privacy, non-discrimination, into technical terms, into concrete technical requirements. And so something that we are trying to do for all the different standards coming from ITU and also the one working on autonomous vehicle is to build trust. And to build trust, we need to build standards that are going to be able to build the metrics for testing the trust in a systems, to monitor, to build an iterative deployment. I'm going to keep talking a bit about human rights. So what is the role of ITU concerning human rights? During the latest WTSA, so the World Telecommunication Standardization Assembly, it's marked a turning point considering human rights. WTSA is the ITU top conference for setting global telecommunications and digital standardization priority every 4 years. So the last one was in India with 3,500 delegates. And delegates came with interesting resolutions. One concerning AI standardizations, and with a focus on global cooperation and trustworthiness. So how we are going to build trust in AI system. And another one where we talk explicitly about respecting human rights, and this one was on the metaverse. And we had also one resolution, the resolution 104, it's where it can be interesting here. It is about vehicular communications. And this specific resolution try to promote standardization activity for vehicles. And so this resolution acknowledges the rapid development of connecting and automatic vehicles. Acknowledge also the need for coordination among multiple industries, so automotive, ICT, transport, energy. So this resolution tried to help all the ITS members, because the ITS members are member states, but are also the industry, to work all together and to build a global cooperation among countries, regions, and organizations. And it's one of the resolutions. This one is quite interesting because it's not only about standardization, because we need also to do a coordination with the spectrum. And because when we are talking about standard and for autonomous vehicles, we need talk about spectrums. And also we are talking about the digital transformation. So it's not only standardization, it's also talking about the other sectors across the ITU. And this specific resolution, so vehicular communications, it englobes 5 different study groups of building the standardization. Just keep in mind that we have 10 study groups in the standardization field. So half of them are concerned about autonomous vehicles. And so the ones, they are going to be the one working on quality of service, security, Internet of Things, also multimedia. And all the different study groups are working together to build standards for autonomous vehicles. What is next concerning standardizations and respecting ethics, human rights? Now we are developing an internal survey. So with all these efforts for study group developing this type of standard to try to understand their understanding about ethics and how we could address it. So it's something that we are going to deliver to the member states at the end of the year. And also we are working with other SDOs so ISO, IEC, IEEE, to talk about best practices. So it's not going to be only on standard on autonomous driving, it's going to be on all the different technical standards, but we are trying to coordinate, and we're building a coordination to understand which methodology we are going to use to implement ethics and human rights in the standards that are coming from the ITUT. So really the current work on human rights will apply directly to autonomous vehicle standards that we are also building at ITUT. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olivier. So now we have 3 distinguished online panelists that are joining our ranks. And also given, I would say, the time difference that we have, I would like to start with Ms. Yong Kai Wen. Also given the late time in China, I would like to let you speak first about the Chinese perspective on basically, yes, autonomous driving governance. Thank you very much.
Okay, so can you hear me? Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm Yong Kai Wen from the Research Institute of Ministry of Public Security of China. I'm in Beijing now, so actually it's the evening now, so I can only participate in this meeting online. I work in the Department of the Traffic Regulation, and we are deeply involving the revision of the road traffic safety law, especially in the legislation related to the autonomous driving. So today, I feel very honored to get the chance to present the latest progress of autonomous vehicle legislation in China. So to save the time, I will try to speak quickly. Okay, so I will introduce the current legislative framework and key issues in the legislative process. And firstly, the current legislative in China is being promoted through 3 dimensions. The first is the first legislation is the national legislation through the revision of the road traffic safety law and its implementation regulations. The key issues and basic principles of road traffic safety management of autonomous vehicle are clarified in this law, including the admission, rejection of AV, how to deal with the traffic violation and accidents, and the most important thing is allowing driverless vehicle to pass on the road from the national legislative level. The second dimension is the phase management policy and a local pilot program. At present, in China, the national level is carrying out a pilot program called Pilot Program of Access and On-Road Traffic of Intelligent Connected Vehicles, which includes level 3 and level 4 autonomous vehicle, and other forms of pilot programs like robotaxis are also being carried out in many cities in China, like Beijing, Shanghai, Wuhan, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and other places. The third one is the specific management norms. This is especially for the traffic police. The Public Security and Traffic Management Department have formulated a series of management norms for the road traffic activity of AV. And this is to help the traffic police to enforce the law. And in the process of building the legal norm system, we divided the management of autonomous vehicle into 3 stages, namely vehicle access, vehicle running on the road, and the handling of traffic violation and traffic accident. So the first, for the vehicle access, in the past, we conducted tests on the driving ability and mastery of traffic regulations of human drivers. And those who passed the test can get the driving license. But now for autonomous vehicle, we need to conduct the same test on the system to ensure that it can abide by traffic rules and be a legal driver. So for this reason, China has initiated the road traffic regulation compliant test. Only by passing the test can a vehicle plate be obtained. And this test is mainly organized by us, and it includes 3 parts. The first one is simulation test. This is organized by qualified laboratory and relying on a vast digital traffic regulation database over 398 key points, and traffic rule scenarios database over 3,000 scenarios is tested here. Systematically test the algorithm understanding and decision-making ability of traffic rules and the extreme condition through over 10,000 virtual scenarios test. And second is closed roads testing, conducted in dedicated venues, targeting 12 key traffic scenarios, utilizing a real controlled environment to verify the system's basic compliance capability, such as perception, decision-making, and execution. And the third one is actual road testing. It randomly checks the system ability to continuously comply with traffic regulations in dynamic and unpredictable road conditions on real public roads. So the compliance testing of road traffic regulation is the cornerstone of ensuring public safety. A recent serious traffic accident involving an assisted driving vehicle in China resulted in the death of 3 people. Later, a compliance test was conducted on this assisted driving system and found there were 3 instances of non-compliance. So we think if the test had been conducted in advance, maybe the traffic accident may not have occurred. And this serves as a profound warning to us that this test is a key defense line for safeguarding life safety and promoting responsible implementation of technology. And second issue is the traffic rules of autonomous vehicle. For autonomous vehicle of different degrees, how should the driving responsibility of people and vehicles be allocated? What are the obligations of the driver? Or we say, actually, they become the user of the autonomous vehicle, such as whether the driver can make or receive phone calls when driving, and where are the boundaries of the driver's attention. The key contradiction lies in the takeover responsibility of level 3 autonomous driving in China. We think there is currently a divergence between the theory of rights and the theory of obligation. And this directly affects the logic of accident liability determination if a traffic accident occurred. And finally, it's about the issue of the determining the legal responsibility after the violation or accident. And first of all, for human drivers, traffic violations such as running red lights and speeding are currently subject to the administrative penalties such as scoring and fines. However, for traffic violations of the auto drive system, it has nothing to do with the role of the driver, who is actually, we say, the passengers. So the scoring of the driver's license have been unable to play a disciplinary role. It is urgent to develop a new set of management measures, such as we think maybe we can score the auto driver system and investigate the responsibility of the production enterprises of the AV. And secondly, after a traffic accident occurs, the problems we need to solve includes how to determine the cause of the accident, how autonomous vehicles fulfill their abilities to protect the scene, to rescue the injured people, to provide fixed evidence. And third one is how to allocate the liability for accident compensation, determine the order of compensation, and who will bear the burden of proof. Of course, we also require companies to purchase insurance, but this is a new issue we think that requires the establishment of a new insurance system in the future. So that's all I want to share today. And I want to say China's legislation on autonomous vehicle, we takes into account with both industry development and also public safety. And we still have a long way to go now. And in the future, we will continue to improve and refine the legislation to help industry's development. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your great description also of the Chinese legal landscape. And I think it really goes to show, in a way, the convergence potential that we have across different countries, the UK, China, and Germany. Right now, I would like to hand over the floor to Ali Hassami, who has basically been working on this topic for a longer time, namely to look for the convergence of different ethical traditions, legal perspectives internationally. And Ali, I think, had done a great job also with the IEEE certified criteria suite, and also basically the ACPACE IEEE standard set. And I'm very happy that you are joining this conversation, also given your experience in the autonomous driving context. And now the stage is yours.
Very much, Dr. Krivitz. Folks, there is little time to tell you a long story, so I'll keep to the essential ingredients of value in this conversation. So I led the IEEE's ethics certification program since 2018, also involved in a number of tech ethics standards developments. So this is a very quick overview of what happened. When we started looking at technology ethics, we saw a fairly large landscape, starting from issues of algorithmic bias, explainability, accountability, and responsibility, then issues of privacy, distinct from protection of privacy values and rights, responsible governance of AI and ethics. Then we delved into fairness, and the number 7 in the list is the traditional forte of engineering, matters of technical safety and security. The standardization effort started in 2016. So you can see IEEE was quite visionary in its coverage. So we defined what we call a 7,000 series of standards. I had the honor and pleasure of chairing the first one, IEEE 7000, that offers a process model, a standard model for addressing and embedding ethics during system design. And system design is a fairly broad concept. Anyway, there are a whole series of other members of the 7000 series that tackle issues of transparency, bias, even privacy in classroom, etc., as you can see. What we developed over 3 or 4 years of collective effort with a panel of global international experts from all over the world, from Latin America to People's Republic of China, was a series of criteria that address what transparency is, what accountability is, how do we understand the existence and extent of algorithmic bias in a given AI deployment, what are the privacy criteria, what do we call responsible governance, as well as fairness that is not even. The beauty of the series of criteria, and by criteria, I mean smart, measurable, implementable, basically requirements effectively, is that they are largely horizontal, but they can, at very little effort, be translated into a vertical application. So we've got the global criteria, say around 150 smart criteria that describe how to understand, measure, and certify transparency as far as ethical property is concerned. If somebody wants transparency in e-health application or in mobility level 4 or in financial services, since we have got the almost like the master chef sources, we can create variations within a couple of months. We started a specific study of AV ethics after we have completed the development of ethics certification and a program that is being rolled out internationally by IEEE through its partners for offering certification against these criteria. We gathered a panel of international experts in AV and ethics. And as you can see, Dr. Kribitz was also a member of that panel of experts. We defined through the panel of experts back in 2022, we had a workshop, few days where we defined what we meant by ethical autonomous vehicle, and building on that broad definition, we started what we call looking at the concept of autonomous mobility around 2022, early 2023, and started what we call a contextualization, looking largely at level 3 and level 4 levels of autonomy. Our first activity was what we call a value discovery, value scrutiny. We call it ethics profiling. Through the collective body of experts that I've highlighted earlier, we identified through a very systematic and structured process 34 initial values, from social cohesion to comfort, freedom, dignity, trust, privacy, rule of law, vocation, and abuses of security, etc. These were using material value ethics, were converted in what we call core values. This is very well defined in our IEEE 7000 standards. So that 34 were translated into 7 so-called core values for AV ethics. So we are now clear that when we talk about AV ethics, we're talking about fairness parameters, well-being, impact on autonomy, impact on agency, if you like, accountability, transparency, potential malevolence, and intrusion into privacy. So from the 34, we got to 7. And we did various rating based on the workshop analysis. We didn't have a clue at the start. We didn't go and do an internet search of all the papers and all the published. Everything was created by the expert panel, who were also coming from actual AV manufacturers and autonomous vehicle industry. We looked at the impact in terms of degree of social impact of these. We had 3 classifications for impact. We call them baseline, minimal, social impact. Compliant is kind of a halfway, acceptable, and critical were almost aligned with the high risk categories in AI Act. So we chose the core value criticality as a basis for furthering or focusing on these critical core ethical values in the context of autonomous vehicles. And we already had studied the ethical fairness in a fairly detailed manner. So we decided one good way is to take the mind map, or what we call a schema, as you can see, and there's not enough time to explain the nature of this schema, but it's got 15 fundamental ontologies. We decided we use this fairness because, as you might see, fairness constituted the biggest share of the AV ethical value of concern in our study. So we took this fairness and turned it into basically a new ethical profile for level 3 and level 4 autonomous vehicles. So what is in front of you is result of a year's worth of study with that panel of experts that constitutes both legal experts, industry technology experts, ethics experts, law experts, etc. And the final version is what you see in front of you, a schema, which has got a very large body of smart parameters. And what we have just the objects that you see in brighter colors are called drivers. These are the positive aspects of AV ethical profile for level 3, level 4 of autonomy. And the gray objects are called inhibitory forces and influences. And we have almost 180 of these in total. So we more or less over a year and 15 months type study focused on autonomous vehicle on a universal basis, not in a particular industry vertical or scenario-based basis. We translated our findings into 180 smart parameters. Within the ethics certification program, we initiated publication of what we call ontological specifications, which is a high-level view of what do we mean by a specific category of ethical properties, such as privacy or transparency, etc. So there is one of these being prepared for autonomous vehicles, and we would have this hopefully published before long. All these documentation will, apart from this one that I'm going to explain, are going to be available within the public domain. The final report of our study that contains 180 smart parameters for assessment and certification of ethicality of AI use in the context of autonomous vehicles was presented to IEEE in December 24, only a few months ago. So this is obviously the result of extensive expert consultation, analysis, hard work, and it is probably the first global suite of extensive, measurable, specific, and applicable criteria that are the basis for a certification program. And we're in the process of piloting the implementation with an AV manufacturer, and also the AV ethics certification, which is a service IEEE is already in possession of for global rollout. I think that's about as much as I like to take this valuable time, and thank you for inviting me to share this experience and basically giving the confidence that when it comes to ethics, we are fairly well advanced, thanks to the experts who gave the expertise, time, and wisdom to this program over the past couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ali, for sharing also the latest updates on this front. And I think we had a journey from the German ethics code, which was the first of its kind, to the first AV ethics standardization. Basically, for the last intervention, I would like to hand over to Sophia Devlin, who is representing a startup in AI ethics. And I think it would be interesting for us to learn a bit about how you see regulation. We have been mostly speaking with universities, but also larger companies. And it would be interesting also how a startup sees basically regulation. Just a short point, we are basically closing in very much to the end of the session. So if you could basically spend just a couple of minutes on this perspective, but I would really like to see in a way startups perspective in there, and also your work in this field is amazing. So would like you to share your input on this. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Krivitz, for the invitation, and thank you for inviting Tech Ethics to provide some input to this very important discussion. We're delighted to contribute, and I'm conscious of time, so please do interrupt at any stage if we need to follow on to the next speaker. But just to say, Tech Ethics, we're based in Northern Ireland. I'm the Chief Executive Officer and one of the co-founders, and we utilise technology to advocate for and uphold human rights. We don't just look at ethics, we look at the legislative components of human rights, and we also look at how we can bridge the gap between best practice handed down from academia and industry to operationalization. So we really look at how do we take standards and the fantastic work conducted by organizations such as IEEE and the universities and make it concrete and actionable for people working within the sector, for developers, and for those at every stage of the AI lifecycle. Now, specifically our background at Tech Ethics, it's more from defense, peace, academia, conflict resolution, human rights. And so AV ethics is relatively new for us to explore officially as a topic, but some of our inputs around this we think are relevant to the field. We feel that AV has a PR or a public relations problem. Unfortunately, whenever we talk about building trust in fields such as peace and conflict resolution, we rely on the knowledge handed down to those people from forms of media, etc. The difficulty within AV ethics is a lot of consumer knowledge stops at disaster reporting. So it isn't even a question of safety in the consumer mind, it's a question of imagination. It becomes a case of how do you begin to facilitate interaction between the fantastic work being conducted on the safety components, on the ethical frameworks within AV ethics, and the consumer imagination. And anecdotally, within countries with low levels of trust in statutory bodies and governments, we see lower levels of AV adoption. So this isn't just anecdotal. In the UK, of course, they have fantastic legislation. They've recently rolled out, as Amanda mentioned, some great work around that in public consultations on best practice within AV ethics. But in the Republic of Ireland, where we have a lot of technological innovation, unfortunately, we don't have even mandatory incident reporting. So while consolidated nations and industry leaders are having discussions around level 4, which is necessary, and of course a big part of innovation in the field, we need to look at the fragmented nature and the asymmetry within legislation. So while we advocate for legislation, we need to look at standardized, I would say, legislative approaches. And we also need to look at, I would say, the fragmented nature of this rollout within AV. I think because a lot of that then will bridge the gap between consumer trust and the statutory bodies and the manufacturers that are having the incentive put upon them to do work and develop best practice within this field. And really, for a lot of this too, a question of liability and accountability. Of course, it's enshrined within ethical frameworks. Of course, it's defined in 101 instances. We think that we really need to work towards a shared language, because without this shared language and standardization about legislation, about driver versus user, about defining these terms of, say, accountability versus legal responsibility, we can't begin to have meaningful discussions where every stakeholder has the same understanding. And so we would advocate for multi-stakeholder dialogue, not only between manufacturers and nation states on the legislative components, but between civil society and manufacturers. Because without these consultations, which are, of course, resource intensive, expensive, they require a lot of human input, there's no integration of civil society perspectives. And of course, as Amanda mentioned previously earlier, it becomes a labour rights issue, especially in rural communities. These AV ethics conversations, it can become very quickly politicised, and they converge into, of course, questions around employment, marginalised communities, and those that are perhaps reliant on vehicles as a form of transport, primarily, and as a source of income. And so within this, we really advocate for the need for standardised dialogue, a shared understanding, and a facilitated discussion between multidisciplinary stakeholders. So it's not just that we work as a startup in this, it's a case of within the industry, when we incentivise behaviour for profit, when we incentivise these behaviours, of course, to promote safety, how do we begin to share that knowledge, and how do we begin to create frameworks, not only in silos within academia, not only within, of course, arenas like this, where we're invited to these policy dialogues, but in the consumer mind. And for those impacted by this legislation, how do we begin to create frameworks and guidelines and tangible understandings, I would say, of not only the harms of AV, but the benefits of AV? How can we begin to transform this into not only an issue in their minds, but to an aspirational use case? And I think that's really the perspective we would like to focus on.
Thank you very much, Sophia, for your great input. And I think like across the panel, we had like so many different ideas, perspectives, and involvements. I think that's really great. And I think we can basically really build on that and also like steer forward the debate on an international ethics frameworks in respect to autonomous driving. And I think we have so many good voices here, which we could really leverage for that. So thank you very much. Actually, we are running out of time, so we are already 30 minutes in delay. But I just wanted to ask basically Christoph, if you are still there, perhaps like to make some final statement from the Institute sides. And I would like also to hand over later on to Professor Zhang Liang, also from the Tiny side.
Well, yes, maybe just a few words from my side, because I think this has been a very productive conversation we had, and it's on the one hand very interesting to just well, get updated on all the technological and legislative developments that there have been during the past few years, and also see that there is, as I believe, a common interest now in advancing this discussion on both governance and international standardization of these issues. I think not. I think that's like it was maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago. It's not just the technology is advancing again, but maybe also the governance and especially the international governance and standardization discussion is also advancing again. And I would like to see more of that and invite more collaboration on these topics. So thank you very much.
So, Wallace, do you want to say something? Okay. I will take this job. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the whole afternoon discussion. I guess this is the very beginning of the exchanges of both the best practices as well as the knowledges we have in these cutting edge areas. As I introduced, our framework to how to understand the co-involvement of the regulatory framework and the technology involvement, that's very important. We need to do this majorly based on the interactions among different stakeholders, from the practitioners, researchers, regulators, as well as the public. I think that's what we want. I should also say thank you for Alex. I still remember, 6 months ago when we kicked off these ideas, we talked with Wallace whether we could have this opportunity to gather all the peoples who are really working in this area to talk to each other. We couldn't suspect at the very beginning, who we will have. We couldn't suspect how the technology itself will involvement. I think such a fortunately thing, when we are here, we can see the tremendous changes in past 6 months, both in US, in EU, in China. We are so glad to heard from our practitioners from industry. These technologies opened a very bright windows for us, just as Vincent and Helen introduced in the morning session. And we also learned a lot from both Christoph, from Alex, from Professor Shen, as well as our colleagues from Shenzhen to introduce such excited advancement progresses in the, adoption of the regulatory framework. We are also very glad to have the opportunity to introduce all of this, tremendous progresses to the public. I guess that's very important. Otherwise, we will not achieve, this ambition. I talked with Vincent when we walked from the conference center to here. Are there any obstacles on the technology to widespread this technology? And he said that personally, he suspects that there's no technical obstacles. I think that I was really excited about this. Yeah, this is really a revolution. It's not a single technology, but how to use this technology to benefit the people, I think it's a key issue. Not only to benefit Chinese, American, or European peoples, but to benefit the people in global. We give less consensus on how to use this technology to help disabled, to use this technology. Helen mentioned a little this morning. How to benefit the global south. I think there are huge potentials to talk about this in the future. We have practitioners, we have researchers, policymakers here. I also have bodies, such kind of think tanks, platforms to facilitate this kind of exchanges. I just raised, a suggestion. Let's keep this platform for our future interactions continuously. We will do our best to make it continuously, not just a meeting, but a platform to facilitate this kind of changes. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your contributions. I learned a lot, I enjoy a lot, and I'm looking forward to work with all of you in the future. Thank you. Now we could say bye-bye to our online participant. We have coffee break out of our room, but unfortunately, we couldn't interact with all of you individually. But we look forward yes, to your attendance maybe in the future, either in Geneva or in Shanghai or in Beijing, anywhere, or in Melbourne. By early November, we will have our international forum, annual forum. You are more than welcome. Christophe, I really looking forward you could be there because you already be absent for twice. We invited you twice, but you are absent. I think this year we definitely want to have you. Yeah, you should promise to me. Okay. Yeah. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. So have a good weekend. Yeah. Enjoy. Bye bye.